And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I am the show's host, and of course, I'm also its creator. So, my guest for today is a fellow Liverpool Football Club fan who himself harbors a secret ambition, well, not so secret anymore, to be the manager of Liverpool FC one day. So, on top of his aspiration to be a social impact investor to further his passion of helping people by building ecosystem. So, his name is Mr. Andrew Tan. Andrew is the country manager of Wantedly Singapore, a Tokyo-based technology company helping you discover jobs that ignites your passion. So, Wantedly is one of Japan's leading business networking platform with over 2.4 million monthly subscribers and serving close to 40,000 companies. They are all some of the most recognized around the world, such as Uber, Airbnb, and Buzzfeed. So Andrew himself has a lot of accomplishment that is, I think, is the one that typically Asian kids are brag about during the Chinese New Year. So other than I will just let you guys see what it is that he has accomplished. So without further ado, I'll pass the spotlight back to Andrew. How are you, Andrew?
Hey, Kelvin, doing great. It's quite a bad weather outside. My connection actually died when you started the introduction. I'm not sure if you noticed. Yeah, but very, very privileged to be here. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching this for the very, very first time, so Global Citizens is an online live show that is done weekly. So the main purpose of this is advocacy and representation of third culture kids, somebody who is like myself, who grow up outside of his own passport country or parents' culture, and along with people who has experienced the life of a global citizens. Maybe they are an expatriate, maybe they are a nomad, or like Andrew's case, actually, he actually went for education abroad in the US before. So this is actually why I actually invited Andrew, and how we get to meet is actually a lot of fun story, but maybe we'll get to that another time. So yeah, I'll just start with the first question, Andrew. Okay, the first one is something that I think is a little bit more personal, and it's something that I want people to know you a little bit more. Yeah, so where is home to you? So is it still Singapore, the United States? Maybe has etched a certain part in your heart. And I do know that you actually have a lot of business dealing before overseas. So yeah, maybe we can talk about home to you.
Yeah, home is so magical, right? It's a definition that can be, defined by where you are at, also where you have roots in, also where your heart takes you. But for
Right.
me, it has to be Singapore. I'm so proud of Singapore, right? I'm so proud to be a Singaporean. And Calvin, you have grown up in Singapore. I think you know what I'm speaking about. But really, people who know me, my family, my close friends, they know that I'm like a fiercely proud Singaporean. And it gets a little bit funny sometimes. Like during National Day, during our Singapore Independence Day, I will be that guy who wears red from top to bottom, right? Yeah, but Singapore aside, I do consider myself a global citizen at heart, and that's why I'm so glad to have this conversation with you today. In part due to my aspirations to grow my international network. You mentioned business, international business. I think today borders are don't mean anything in the business world. So I want to grow my international network, but that also covers friendships, relationships, and at the same time, I believe through growing this network, I can gain more perspectives. So since young, I've been blessed to be able to embark on such a journey through different endeavors. I guess I've studied in the US, as you shared. I've also studied in China. I worked in UK. I did community service in Nepal. That was quite life changing, to be honest, and a lot more, right? Endeavors. So honestly, first home Singapore. Second home would be anywhere else that my passion, anywhere else that my purpose takes me. And I think I need to mention in the current climate, in the current situation, when the lockdown first happened, the lockdown in Singapore, we call it the circuit breaker. When it first happened, Obviously, we didn't know we couldn't travel for 1 or 2 years, but my wife, she was so concerned with my well-being because she know that I'm like, if I could be everywhere all at once, I would be. Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, my anchor is in Singapore, 100% for sure, and that anchor being family.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well said. And I am challenging you to the title of that most Singaporean because I actually was featured in Singapore Global Network's article simply because my entry just seems too patriotic for a guy who's not even born in Singapore. So I'm challenging you on that. Yeah, don't
I
worry.
love that.
Nothing. Nah, just joking, just joking. But yeah, I definitely get what you mean. I've been away from the Lion City now for it's gonna be close to 3 years. I really, really miss going back there. I mean, like just a simple thing such as like taking an MRT train is something that I really just miss somehow because I don't know. I think it's just something that I'm so used to, and when it was taken away, you never realize how much even something as maybe people will call it cumbersome, tiresome, but the thing is that it's something that you never thought you'd appreciate growing up there.
Totally.
Okay,
I feel you. And hope
okay,
hope that you
so
come back soon.
definitely I can. I definitely will try to come back soon. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, it's a lot better. Okay, so I actually want to ask though. When all of the countries that you have experienced growing, studying, or maybe when you're working, right? Have you ever experienced a learning opportunity, like something that really opened up your mind that, oh, okay, apparently this is not how everybody always see things. And people may call it a failure, but I don't like it. I don't like to use that term, but because when you're entering a new culture, you cannot always come there and then you may know everything and everybody is different, right? So yeah, for your case, do you have such experience?
Um, I think I definitely do. I'm a firm believer in learning as much as you can and learning from experiences, right? Not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom is one of the sure win methods of learning. And in my own journey, I would say one of the biggest learning and failure or not, it's not all positive, but maybe it's not really a failure. One of the biggest learning wasn't when I moved to another country for a period of time. It was actually returning home. So I studied in US University at Buffalo. So Buffalo is Western New York, right? I studied there for 2 years, and because it was an extended period of time, as opposed to maybe, for example, a summer school, right? Summer school it feels more like a holiday, but when you study for 2 years there, I did feel, and I very deliberately wanted to live there rather than holiday there. It's not a travel. It's not a trip. I laid roots there, right? And the struggle for me was when I came back to Singapore after living in the US. I'm not sure if the audience can identify with this, especially for those who are familiar with Singapore or are based in Singapore. Singapore has it good. Singapore has it so good, I feel, that sometimes we are too quick to complain. And in fact, growing up in Singapore, I was familiar because I was in this culture. I was familiar with the culture of complaining. After all, in Singapore, we have this description of people, right? Complain king, complain queen. All they do is complain
Kiasu,
nonstop.
kiasi, kiabo.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's actually one of the earliest description I remember when I just came back from Singapore for my first year at that time.
that's right. And this learning I had, right, was when I returned home. What changed? It wasn't Singapore that changed, but I changed instead, I feel. When I came back, I felt this overwhelming and jarring negativity that stemmed from that complaint culture. So when I say that I'm a proud Singaporean, it's because I know how fantastic we have it here compared to other cities. And yet we are, hopefully nobody, locks off after this, yet we are arguably less tolerant and we complain more as a result. So there's a whole separate debate perhaps there on this appreciation for Singapore, on this complaint culture. But for me, that was the glass shattering and learning moment for me due to cultural differences. And in this case, it was my own culture. Yeah.
I can relate. I can relate to that, and I can relate to that well. And in fact, I think my audience who are from the different time zones will definitely be able to relate to that. Reason being is that when it's not the same, like when I said in the introduction, this show is not meant to educate, to tell you that the life that we have lived is an extended holiday. It's really a phase. It's really a journey whereby we discover some parts about ourselves that we never thought is possible. But when we actually expose that original part of ourselves, like in our own original passport country, it's not acceptable. It's a lot of time whereby we have to be, in a sense, we have to be a chameleon. Is and it can be a little bit of a challenging journey at times. So this is actually why Global Citizens was created, is because I want people to be able to just see the story, because I don't have to add on some extra narrative that they do on documentaries. I don't have to create any agenda. This is your own life. You tell it, but the thing is that there could be people who's watching it who can relate to an extent, and they don't feel alone, and they don't feel like an outcast, or they feel like that they don't belong, because it can be a really really difficult journey. Okay, okay. So yeah, you actually jumped my next question. Since yeah, I was actually about to ask what if you feel right when you actually came back to Singapore, but yeah, it's fine. Okay, so there's a term on the show called the global vision. So basically, you mentioned how you have changed after your journey in the US. So how do you feel though, like this changes has impact your style as an entrepreneur and as the country manager of Wantedly, your current role? What do you feel though the difference in perspective have you brought about in your management style?
I think, I'll answer this once again, referencing my time in US, how I felt I flourished, during my time there. So maybe I can share a little bit about that. And then the takeaways and the application, today. So when uh, when I went to US, right, it was for my undergraduate. It was for my bachelor's degree. This was my longest continued stint abroad, where I studied there for 2 years. It's a bit funny because I always sought this chance to work, to study overseas, because I wanted to work overseas as well. It goes hand in hand. And I'm very privileged that I had my family's support, to do that. Let's make that clear. But part of that aspiration stemmed from my education and my professional pursuits at that point of time. I was studying business, majoring in finance. I wanted to work in Wall Street, right? So that was like the summit, that was like, if you're in finance, hey, obviously you've heard of Wall Street. Obviously, you would like to work at Wall Street. And this was even today, I feel, for finance majors. So I had to get to New York as a first step. And my university in Buffalo was Western New York, as I mentioned. So I would describe it as a college town. That's not funny enough. It's not only the opposite spectrum of New York City. It's, in fact, when I landed in Buffalo, I was further away from New York City than Canada. I was closer to Canada, right? That's how far away it was from New York. And also Buffalo. If for those who are from US, shout out to you guys. It's notorious for the winter. In fact, there's like snow 6 months of the year, and this cannot be more contrasted to Singapore, right? So there I was. I had to grab this once in a lifetime opportunity with both hands. I had to make sure I didn't let my family down as well. I had to make the most out of it. So this is where my development really came about, and that flourish that I mentioned, right? And it's something that I've been doing ever since then, putting myself out there, creating opportunities for myself, and saying yes to those opportunities. Sometimes opportunities can be in front of you, and you reject it, right? You turn it down, or you just don't even consider it. So in terms of that overseas and international perspective and experience, how I dealt with it, I was quick to be part of something, and also at the same time build my own thing. So in UB, University at Buffalo, I was the president of the Singapore Student Association, and I built a community that included not just Singaporeans but Malaysians as well, Indonesians also, Japanese, Taiwanese, and more. And I sought to give back too through different initiatives, including helping new arriving Singaporeans assimilate with this New York but not New York place. And when I reflect on my overseas stints, I've always found myself making the place my home. And I think it boils to a few ingredients: seeking opportunities for yourself, be it on campus or volunteer work, etc. Building a community, building a tribe, and then being a champion for your culture. Your culture, be it from your passport country or the culture that you associate with, be a champion for that culture. So I think from all those learnings, and applying that to sort of my career, my time now, I think one of the takeaway is hands down, making friends and having friends in dozens of cities across the world is just fabulous for so many reasons. I think when we get to travel again, I have like a list of friends that I want to visit in different cities, time and money permitting, of course. But it's also been impactful for my own development as a person to have that broad view of things, because of the chance to gain different perspective, right? If you are just in one place for your entire life, and God forbid you don't read, you don't learn, you don't network, so on and so forth, right? Your perspective is limited. You may be able to get by. I do find it hard for you to level up. Yeah.
Yeah, well said, well said. I actually had managed to invite several notable personalities online that actually come from Singapore. You definitely know one of them. His name is Vivek Iani, and I've actually had several individuals like Mr. Eric Fong and even Mr. Rayson Chu. The latter two are actually amongst those who actually inspired me to start creating this, because I actually applied what you said sometime back in 2018. Because yeah, it is true, when you actually network and then you actually got exposed to different perspective, you never realize that actually there's a lot more things that you can learn. There's a lot of methods that could be applied and that is outside of your own bird culture, I guess. So that is something definitely worth championing, I guess, if you want to call it, is because
Yeah.
a lot of time I think we are too, I don't, maybe we can call it stubborn, or maybe we are proud of it, that we defend our own culture, even though after we realize, oh yeah, actually this doesn't make sense. Why do I have to do this? When actually one method could have the exact same result, but in a much more efficient or even enjoyable way of achieving it. So yeah, that's really a good point, Andrew.
Yeah, Calvin, and as I was, preparing for our talk show today, I really, gain a better affinity with what you're doing. You're in your 100 plus episode, right?
This is 107.
Yes, that's incredible. And think about it. Basically, you have had, mo- 100 or so different exposure, different network from all across the world. Because I see that you have, guests from not just Singapore. You have guests and friends and network from different continents, different countries. And in this day and age where we cannot travel that freely, I think Global Citizens show is bringing us to across different borders. So, Calvin, well done, well done.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You heard that, Mom? Okay, never mind. Yeah, don't worry. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Well, when I created this show, actually, the what actually be was the ultimate trigger to start it was that at that time I was living like in the middle of nowhere. I have no connection. I mean, there are a lot of nice people there. However, you don't speak English to a bunch of cows and chickens, and a lot of the people who are living there are just, well, they are, as I said, they are lovely people, but they are individuals who survive day-to-day basis on labor work. So there's you cannot find a communication ground to it. Like there's no common ground to actually talk to that. So at that time I only have, well, this laptop that I am still using because my last employer actually did not pay my last pay when I was still in Singapore, and a Wi-Fi access. And slowly and slowly, this is how this thing has become, because I just want to be able to talk to people and share some ideas, maybe learn the new ideology, and to be able to have that international connection. But over time, I've actually done a lot of stuff that's a lot more interesting. Actually, there's one episode that I'm particularly proud of. I actually was featured in Cultures magazine earlier this year. So I actually met the editor in chief because I actually created an anti-racism article that was given a negative feedback, that was given a backlash, and she actually defended me. So when I actually got to know her, I don't even know why she defended me at that time, but yeah, when I talked to her, then I found out, oh wow, you're doing something a lot more impressive than what I'm doing. So there we go.
Don't say that. Don't. We all, in terms of making impact and creating impact, we all start somewhere, and I
Thank you.
think you are doing something very positive.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I already said on my 100th episode, if I ever stop doing this, I guess it will be at 195. The reason being is that there's 195 countries listed under the United Nations. So I think it's just a good representation, but I'll see how it goes, if I will keep on doing it or how it will be go. All right. All right then. Okay. So yeah, regarding your approach, which is actually uh, like when I hear it, the way your, like in a sense, the credo for you to work is make lemons out of lemonade, and but make sure that you still stick to the target that you already had in mind, right? Uh, Recently in Singapore, we actually chat about this. There was a little bit of a fiasco in a sense. I think it's a drama. I don't really want to get into that because this show is not about drama, but it's something that is worth noting for a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or they're doing business. So basically, uh, there's a media company in Singapore that is considered the pioneer to the social media landscape in the Lion City. And the thing is, it was discovered later on that actually the co-founders, who are now divorced, actually are still unpacking the baggage that is actually resulted in the creation of that company. So we actually had a chat about this last time, Andrew, but maybe if you don't mind sharing your perspective, though, how important do you feel, though, is the balance between your home environment that you bring over to a work environment? Because as we see from that particular case, we know that the case was actually revealed by some kid who is 20 years old. Just a 20-year-old kid can destroy like a near $1 million company. So That's a mess of its own. But for maybe I can have a little bit of your perspective, Andrew. Like, how important is the synergy, like a support from your home environment that you carried over to your work environment?
I think, first of all, we we it's easy to judge, but we should avoid judging because we never know what's actually going on. It could always be a case of he said, she said. We cannot assume what they're going through as well. And if it's not in our position to participate, by participating, we are actually adding, stress, distress to them. So I'll take a very broad approach to this without referencing the specific example. Once again, I think it's very sensitive because it's hard to know what's actually going on home in relation to work. And if you don't have that relationship, between colleagues or between employers and employees, you will never understand, and that leaves room for assumption, which could cause tension, could cause friction, because whenever there's assumption, it could go both ways, right? You could assume the best, you could also assume the worst, and then your actions will tell. Let's say you have a good relationship then with the colleague or with the employee or the employer, the boss, and you know what's going on. I think in today's world, we all need to be extra kind, because it's easy to be kind in bad times. Sorry, it's easy to be kind in good times, but it's in bad times when you need to be extra kind, and it goes a longer distance. So if you know the other party's situation, I think that what you can do, what we all can do, is to be extra kind, be it giving them their space, be it not throwing them under the bus, or be it, if you're in a position to do so, lending a hand or lending a ear. So I feel that if home messiness spills over into work, the first thing to do is to see if you can find out the situation. That way, you don't leave anything to imagination or misinterpretation, right? Find out the situation, and then consider the kind approach. And as I said, it could be giving the party extra space, extra time off, giving the party, lending the party a hand or a year. So yeah, I think finding out the facts and then being kind would be the way to go in this kind of situations.
Well said. Well said. Okay. I actually want to create. I actually come up with something based on what you said on kind. Yeah, which is how important, though, in your opinion, that in this day and age is empathy, listening, and acknowledgement of others' plight. How important it is, or how it is universally important it is, because the thing is that even though everybody have a different upbringing, everybody have a different kind of culture that they grow up with, but the thing is that we all always want the same thing in a sense. uh, Maybe it could be something that we just want somebody to listen to us, or maybe if let's say it is something that require material need that you need, you want shelter, something along that line. But the thing is that it all comes down to how the person on the other end is willing to actually give that time for you. So maybe I can have your opinion about this.
Absolutely. Just want to check if you can hear me. My connection was a bit bad. Okay, great. I think kindness is universal. So everyone would know how to dish out kindness and also receive kindness, more often than not. At the same time, I believe that kindness in the workplace, right, it's it's not a leadership trait that is widely celebrated. It's not celebrated enough. You know, it's almost challenging to find a business leader, a role model in a business world, who are known for being kind. you probably can find a lot of leaders, a lot of managers, a lot of power people who are known to be smart, sharp, savvy, even ruthless, brutal, whatever. Obviously innovators, but you don't really find any business leaders who are touted, for their kindness. And I feel that could change. We could celebrate kindness more in the business world, because I believe the most important aspect of being a manager is to develop human capital and to manage people. It's not machines or data and whatnot. And going back to kindness, it plays a key role in building that hardware. Software is there, hardware is there, but what about the hardware? And I think that's critical. So you mentioned empathy, empathy, listening, being present, being available. These are what I would look out for in leaders, that I want to work for, work with, and hopefully, I'm on my own journey as well to improve as a leader in that regard.
Andrew? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you froze for a sec. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Uh, just to piggyback a bit on what you said, yeah. So, one of the biggest trend now, as you mentioned earlier, is that border is no longer available. It's no longer applicable. Sorry, for international business connection is because we see from COVID is that everybody now have to be a little bit more innovative, because if not, we do not have a source of income, or if not, there are those who are maybe a little bit more fortunate, but at the same time, there's no way you can survive just by staying indoors every single time. So one of the thing that, in a sense, is a hidden blessing that the pandemic has done is it pushes people to be innovative. Yeah. Now, in this borderless approach, I guess, how crucial though do you feel the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion be? Is because, like, for example, your something that, just to add on from what you said previously, like, you can be the kindest person, but the thing is that you can't translate it in a digital setting immediately. I mean, you only have the four screen, you only have the camera, you can talk to each other, but the thing is that you may not be able to express who you are completely, and it might result to misunderstanding, or in some other worst case scenario, maybe it's Wi-Fi connection could make a lot of misunderstanding. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun stories with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I know what you
okay,
mean. And
yeah,
I think there are a few points here to highlight. First of all, about the new normal working environment or working conditions. It's critical. It's critical to be, I feel, deliberate and intentional in your workplace connections, because like you suggested, you won't know how your colleague is feeling today, because you are no longer sitting side by side, you're no longer having lunch together, right? Wantly, we are working remote in this current situation. So it's important to be deliberate and intentional in your workplace connections. It could be, you know, jumping, jumping on a catch-up call, something that you don't usually do if you are face-to-face, right? You can always chit-chat in the morning, but now you need to replicate that environment. It could also be having, meetings that are tailored for a virtual working environment. And what I mean by that is, before you start the meeting, before you start the agenda, have that catch up. Have that interpersonal connection, rather than, okay, this is item one, this is item two, let's go right into it, because you haven't seen this person for 2 months or 6 months. You should spend 5 minutes or 15 minutes to ask your colleague how was his or her weekend. And I think that small approach done consistently makes a difference. We also mentioned about DEI. We also mentioned about innovation. With or without the pandemic, both of these are essential. Both of these have to be, on top of managers and leaders' minds. I feel that it should always have great importance, because going back to our topic, our start of the conversation about having that added perspective, that broaden horizons. Having DEI within an organization provides a launchpad for innovation. You're going to have a bigger talent pool, because you are looking at more possibilities. You're going to attract more talents of the new generation, because the new generation, millennials, Gen Z, they seek this kind of work environment. They seek this kind of a vibrant and diverse team culture, team members. The importance, if we talk about it in the context and against the backdrop of the pandemic, is there's this whole tsunami of the Great Resignation, right? In the last 1+ years, the Great Resignation has been a recurring topic, and HR managers, business owners have been advised to look out for the Great Resignation. And the reason why it's taking place is because of the power shift from employers to employees. Now, think about that for a moment. Maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's everything that the boss says, right? But now there's a new school of thought that the manager is actually working for the employee, right? Not in a bad way, but in a way that you should understand the needs of your employee. You should want to help them achieve their goals, so that they can help you achieve your company goals. Basically, all this means that organizations need to be more empathetic about what employees want and need, and adapt to it. And that could include a focus on DEI, and the result would be, I believe, innovation.
Well said. Well said. Do you mind maybe what of the current practices that you are actually implemented to wantedly now that actually in a sense advocated what you said?
So, wantedly, going back to our origin, going back to our founding story, right? I think it's been an inspiration since day one. We were founded in Japan. Our HQ is in Tokyo. Outside of Japan, we're also in Singapore and Hong Kong. But let's start with Japan. Our CEO and our founder, her name is Akiko Naka. 10 years ago, when she brought about Wantedly's mission to create a world where work drives passion, she has led Wantedly to success, whereby we are the de facto hiring platform in Japan. And in so doing, in her journey, 2017, she brought Wantedly to IPO, to become a public listed company on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And by doing so, she became the youngest woman to lead a public listed company in Japan. Think about that for a second. And then think about what we know about Japan's male dominated society. I
I've had
mean,
several
yeah,
people who are of Japanese descent, and yeah, I'm
yeah,
so sorry. I don't mean to be insulting to to Japan, but yeah, I get that. I get what you said.
there is definitely this legacy, right? It is a male dominated society, and I believe we shouldn't pigeonhole a business leader or a founder as like a female founder. A founder is a founder, whatever the gender. But because of this origin story, I think there's added inspiration for our work here at Wantedly. And it really creates, first internally the values, and then externally when we talk to our communities of employers and job seekers, find a company that inspires you, find a company that has values and has purpose that you share. And I mean, it's not something that we go out and do deliberately. It's not something that we have a checkbox. It should never be a checkbox, right? And it should never, if possible, it shouldn't be tokenism. But I'll share with you, in our Singapore and Hong Kong outfits, Wantali have I never count specifically, but we have like 60 or 70% more ladies than men, and they made such an incredible contribution to our mission, and that's the reason why they're in the company, because of their contribution that they bring to the organization. It's not about, like I said, it's not about that checkbox. Okay, we need to have 50% women. No, yeah, but that's the situation we have. And I mean, DEI as a whole, I think you need to have like five talk shows talking about it. But I think we have this going for us, and it all started with the inspiration when Wantali was founded. Yeah.
I think it's also marked the how important it is for when a when a company start is like creating your own family. Like you need to have the solid basis, or maybe an easier idiom is like when you're building a house, you need to have the solid structure before you add on to everything else. So okay, what at least sounds like a company I would like to work for. You guys hiring?
Definitely. We always want to
Uh,
find talents. A couple of years back, Wantali was, I think we tried to open in Indonesia also. And
oh,
right now we are focused on Singapore and Hong Kong. And I mean, Kelvin, I admire your work, so we should definitely, keep the conversation going.
definitely. Okay, one of the trend, I guess, nowadays is that with remote work is that earlier we mentioned about it is because we are unable to predict. There's still an element of unpredictability, right? So Facebook recently just the almighty Facebook that is hosting this. Shout out to you guys. They just created something called the metaverse, as announced by its founder and CEO, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. So this thing, one of the discussion that I actually listened several days back is that will it completely eliminate an actual physical office, is because now is that one of the main issue from a virtual work is that you can't meet your counterpart or your colleagues in a more direct basis. So as a result, well, there could be some misunderstanding here and there, but the thing is nowadays, what if metaverse can actually overcome that particular handicap? Because you may not be able to see that person directly, but you have access to see their avatar, you have the capability of chatting with them. So what do you see about the future of remote workplace if, let's say, this new innovative approach is implemented?
One thing I'm sure of is that there will be constant change or innovation depending on how we look at it, and I think there's a place for what you described. What I don't like about it is I feel inevitably there will be people left behind, and I think that's the cost of change. That's the part about change that even though it's undeniable, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I feel that the powers that be, and in this case, Meta, if they were to create this environment and have, it become the new normal, I feel that they should pay special attention in making sure no one gets left behind. And obviously, all of their other struggles like privacy and trust and everything. um,
We're not
I,
gonna get into that.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna get into that. That's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna need a lot more hours than that.
True. Yeah, but I think closer to home, just from my perspective, my take on workplace, new normal work environment, so on and so forth, this whole topic, right? As an individual contributor, I think I could thrive on it because autonomy is meant to empower, right? But as a manager, my honest take is I wish I can see my team more, and it's not just for work reasons, right? It's because of welfare as well. Like I don't believe productivity equals to you sitting in front of the computer, but when we have discussions, I think there's constraints to a Zoom or Google Meet session when there's 5 or 10 people. And also about the welfare part, when I can't, even though we have our intentional catch-ups, if I can't see you consistently enough, I might miss out something. And I don't want that missing out something to come back and, um, affect the well-being of the members. Yeah. So I think how to approach this dilemma is it's already underway. What I've observed is HR has become the most important function in this last 1-2 years, if not already before, right? Because they now have greater responsibility in communicating and managing this shift and this balance. Yeah.
Just to add on, I mean, HR has always been a very important function, but the thing is that I think there was always an underappreciation. I guess it's not that because they don't do their work; it's because there's always going to be more focus on the more business side of things as compared to the more operational side of things. But yeah, shout out to those people who is in the human resource department, even though you guys got me into trouble quite a few times. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay. All right, Andrew. I got two final question for you, and so let's just do our the former one is a little bit more. I don't want to keep continuous question that's a little bit more tense. So it's something a little bit more challenging, but at the same time, it could be a little bit more fun, if you want to call it, is because if you can create something, it can be a character, or it could be a show, or it can be a movie, or anything that is able to, in a sense, exemplify and tell your journey dealing with intercultural life. What would you want to create?
One thing that I've taken on this year because we kind of expect it to be another year of the pandemic is to have I have a reading goal, a reading list. So this year I've doubled the number of books I've read compared to the previous year, and I think that has set me in the space, the headspace where I think you know books, good books, the written word is so powerful, and I feel that in some alternate universe, I would like to be an author, or I would like to have a book, publish a book. In terms of content, right? I wouldn't I would never say I should have a book written about myself. Although I joke with my wife that if I were to have my own book, like an Andrew Tan book, it would be a joke book because I love telling jokes and I feel that I have a lot of original jokes. So look out for the Andrew Tan's dad jokes book. But what have come to mind recently, and like this is the first time I'm saying out in public, I feel quite inspired to write a book about our parents. Like, I think we grew up with our parents as our first teacher. They are, in this today in today's startup world, right? You have founders, co-founders, you have investors, so on and so forth. You're building something. Parents are so hands-on with with you creating and crafting your future, giving you the tools and resources that you need to survive and then flourish. And they themselves have such a rich history and experience and knowledge. And I feel that it's their word is not appreciated enough, it's not broadcast enough, it's almost hidden and silent. And I feel like lending a voice to that, and specifically, I dream of one day writing and publishing a book about my dad. And it's not, to me, he's a role model, he's an inspiration. It's not that he's unremarkable, but the reason for wanting to write this is not because he's somebody famous. It's just because he's my dad. He has taught me so much and he has inspired me so much. And he's the one with my mom and my family that gave me the opportunity to become who I am, I feel. So I think that if I were to create something, I think a book is going to be very precious. Today everything is online. You have short form bite-sized videos, but a book is quite legitimate and long lasting and very tangible. So book first, and in terms of the topic and content, I would love to write about my dad. Yeah.
Shout out to your dad, Andrew. Okay. That gave me an idea actually. For those of you who may not know, so in every this is going to be something a segment that I will be creating is actually in the episode itself. So every 10 episode, I will be doing something called the four corners. So basically, instead of just a one-to-one person like this, it's actually a segment whereby it's going to be individuals from three other countries, and the top we actually will be having different topics. So what Andrew mentioned on intergenerational differences and appreciation, maybe that is something that I will be implementing in a future episode. So do keep a lookout for it. All right, Andrew. This is gonna be my last question for you. I always like to end these episodes with a blessing. So sorry, not blessing. Sorry. What you are feeling grateful about. So it can be the good and the bad, but it has to be something that you feel help you to become the person that you are, in a sense. And also, uh, maybe like for in this case, maybe I want to ask you is that what have you been feeling most grateful about with your global citizens life so far? Because it could be good, it could be bad, but the thing is that how do you feel that this has made you who you are?
Thanks, Kelvin. In my earlier sharing, I mentioned that it was when I came back. I had a period of sort of readjusting back to home, my new old home. But I think that when I came back, I probably didn't realize it back then. I must have been depressed, without knowing it, because I laid roots in Buffalo. I lived there for 2 years, and I've suggested, how much I've done there, right? So these were deep roots. I had built a family away from home, and basically I had to leave that permanently. So coming back, obviously, uh, I don't think I would ever like migrate, but at that point of time coming back, it was definitely rough for me, and I don't really say this out loud, not even to like my family, because I am returning home to them, right? So I don't want to say like, darn, I'm so upset to come back, right? Yeah, but I think your question made me think about this, because being a global citizen is not all rosy. You have this kind of sort of painful moments as well. Yeah, but I think it's what you make the most out of them. And for instance, if it's about how to keep those relationships going, even after you leave a place, if you leave a second home, then it's down to you to really show that those relationships matter, those relationships mean a lot to you, and to keep it going. Yeah, but above all, I'm grateful. I think I've shared some of my learnings and what I'm grateful about in this conversation, including the support I got from my family to go abroad. That's definitely one of them. I also want to mention, when I was in Buffalo, I met my wife. So she's a Singaporean on exchange there, and it was because I was heading up the Singapore Society that I was helping new Singaporeans get used to life in Buffalo, that we connected. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And I wonder if my wife is tuning in, but hey, babe. And maybe I'll conclude by sharing one of my favorite quotes. The memory is a gratitude of the heart. And I think that my takeaway and why this is a quote that I like is to always be thankful and always be grateful. And maybe this goes back to my earlier point and small gripe about the complaint culture here is, let's practice more appreciation. And I think in so doing we can all come together to be kinder together.
Very, very well said. Very, very well said. I love that quote. Oh, speaking of, hi. Uh, shout out to your wife, Andrew. All right, guys. Well, he's not gonna be sleeping on the couch at least. All right. Okay. That's actually all the questions I've had. So before I end this, I actually want to show you guys this. This is actually a webinar that was sent by Andrew, the MHH webinar, building successful communities. So Andrew, do you mind giving us a summary of what the webinar is about?
Definitely. So every day I'm striving with my team at Wantedly to build a world where work drives passion. And in Singapore, we help employers develop employer branding so that they can attract the right talents. At the same time, we do support job seekers as well. You can do your personal branding on Wantedly. You can connect with employers on Wantedly. So if you are looking for a job, if you're looking to hire, please get in touch. But outside of Wantedly, and maybe this is where I suggested earlier that you have to be part of something, and if you are able to, you can also build something. So this year, I earlier in the year, and this was in the midst of the pandemic, right? I co-founded Makan For Hope. Makan For Hope is a platform to bring about startup communities to do good together. And along the way, you learn, you grow, you network. So MFH stands for Makan For Hope. And this is a webinar, part of the webinar series that we're organizing to teach founders, to teach builders, to bring all of you together to network. And at the same time, understand that it's important to give back to community through charity work, through volunteerism, and also have very tangible takeaways. And this upcoming session, we are going to feature a topic on community building. And I think a lot of startups, platforms today, including Global Citizen, is all about communities, right? Communities drive growth. Communities drive innovation. So how do you build successful communities? Let's find out this Friday. Look forward to having you guys.
All right. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, please support if you're interested to support this channel. Don't worry. I'm not going to force anybody on this, but if you're interested to support this channel, please buy me a coffee at the link in the description box. And yeah, do earn yourself an Airbnb travel credit. Oh, okay. Cheers. I know you guys can travel, but in case you guys are interested, there's an Airbnb travel credits. And if you're interested to start your own live stream like what I'm doing, earn yourself a $10 credit for StreamYard. It's in the link in the description box. So yeah, last but not least, I just want to say thank you to Andrew for making the time here today. I actually have one of the most delightful experience when I was preparing this episode is because he's very enthusiastic about it. So it's always really appreciated. All right.
Kelvin, it's so delightful to be here. Uh, I had a great time, like 100%. And like I said before the show started, I'm going to introduce more guests to you to come on your show because I think that it's really, really important to have these conversations. But thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, and I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, this is the end of episode 107 of Global Citizens, bringing external perspective into the Lion City business scene. So, take care, everyone, and I hope to see you all maybe in person or maybe online. Do take care. Bye.
Keep safe.